You need to film them. Solomon.
I'm showing. Gordon?
Gaura.
Gaura. Got it here first. I like that. I would have chosen that one. Gaura? G-O-R-A? Does that have anything to do with Hare Krishna? Yeah? What does it mean?
Gaura is a name for
Lord who?
Lord Chaitanya.
Oh, okay.
Avatar.
How many avatars does Krishna have?
Well, it said there are as many incarnations of Krishna as there are waves in the ocean.
A lot. A lot, okay. Name them. So, my friends and I, we have the atheist group. Do you come every Saturday here to Balboa Park? Have you been to Balboa Park before?
Yeah.
Many times?
Yeah, quite a few times, probably a dozen times.
Yeah. How do you like it?
Nice.
Is it not beautiful?
Yeah.
We first showed up when we saw you guys chanting out here, doing the Hare Krishna chant. The Jehovah's Witness had a couple of tables. The Muslims had a table. The Mormons had a couple of their missionaries out. Christians had 2 or 3 tables, I think, at the time. So basically, everybody was out here, as you well know, any given Saturday. And so we thought that it might be time that we show face as well. And so,
what does this expression mean? Show face.
Show face means present ourselves. Means show up and be known, be seen. And so we decided to have a booth, and we've been. I don't know if the half dozen or a dozen times that you've been here, if you've seen us, but we've been right across from you, right across from El Prado, the main street there, from you guys. We've actually enjoyed the chanting, the drum beating while we've sat there all day.
We used to get cookies.
Yeah, you don't get cookies anymore. And we feel that is a downside of your religion, that you no longer give us cookies.
Oh, I see.
Your thoughts? I'm kidding. Don't worry about it. So, how old are you, roughly, if you don't mind me asking? 30. I'm 33 myself. How old were you when you became part of the Hare Krishna faith?
I was 17.
Oh, 17? Your parents, what faith were they? What religion did you grow up in?
My parents were culturally Catholic.
Okay.
Yeah. In other words, they were not very faithful to Catholicism.
Culturally Catholic is a well-known phrase in just about every country. So no need to explain there. What country did you grow up in?
Here, in the United States.
In California?
Partly.
Okay. And what brought you to the Hare Krishna faith?
Well, a number of different reasons. People, the qualities of the people is very attractive to me. Because, one, it's not so common to find people that live by what they speak about.
Sure.
So, like, to me, commitment's a very attractive quality.
Absolutely.
And among other things, genuine humility, generosity, sacrifice. Like these things are very attractive.
I can see
qualities people have. So the devotees, the qualities the devotees have. The philosophy. Probably the reason I stayed with them is because of the philosophy. Because one could be attracted by a religion for superficial reasons, Even if the people are nice, like it's not really enough to commit yourself to a whole way of life.
Right.
What you say. Because
what would you be able to explain the philosophy in a nutshell?
Probably that there is a supreme being. We call him Krishna.
Right.
And Krishna has many energies. So we're one of his. We're one type of one of his energies. We're one of the energies of Krishna.
Homo sapiens.
Not Homo. No, not Homo sapien. Homo sapien is a species of material life, but according to the understanding I adhere to, we are eternal spiritual beings.
Okay.
And but we may take on the body like a human being or even a tree or a bird or something like that. But those are all false designations. We're actually not material. But presently, because of our previous decisions, we have taken on a body that's covered in material elements.
So do you believe that every tree, every ant, every rabbit has a spirit in it?
Yeah.
Every living thing, plant or animal on the earth has a living spirit that is separate from the physical elements that it is comprised of.
Yes.
Okay. Why do you believe that?
Well, I don't just accept one fact like in a vacuum.
Sure.
But in general, you can see that a living entity, in other words, a living being it exhibits a different nature than dull matter.
Mm-hmm.
So
humans act different than rocks.
Yeah, you can see they react differently too. If you throw a rock or if you throw a bird, these are simple reasons.
Right.
But
you think that has nothing to do with the central nervous system involved in living beings versus
you can say
rocks.
You can say that it's the nervous system. Actually,
an animal.
Yeah, actually, there's no way to empirically prove that there's something different than the matter that we see. There's no way to empirically prove that consciousness is a spiritual thing because we're using material elements. We're using material senses. So for me, you're an intelligent person. So for me to try to give you these type of like textbook answers, you don't have to accept that. I wouldn't expect you to. But reality the reality I experience doesn't tally with explanations given by empiricists, basically.
Okay. What is it that does? Is there something that you can give an example of that is said by, as you said, empiricists that does not comport with reality?
Well, there are different types of empiricists, but especially a person who will claim that if something isn't within their sense perception, it does not exist. That I can't accept because it's illogical.
Right. Obviously, there's ultraviolet light, which
there's all sorts of stuff. Radio waves.
General humans cannot see, or
we can't even see the sound waves.
Right.
We're using,
of course.
But we accept they're there.
Well, we have empirical evidence that they're there, though.
Yeah.
Despite our limited senses as Homo sapiens, as our evolved primates as we are, we do have empirical evidence.
Yeah. I was
that they
trying
are
to make a gross comparison, basically.
Okay.
In other words, there are things that we even acknowledge, but we can't sense.
I think for me, myself, I was raised. I was baptized Catholic myself.
Oh, really?
I actually grew up going through as a non-believer, but I went through the Mormon seminary school.
Oh, really?
I've been very involved in lots of religions, mainly Christianity. But I've been to Muslim Salah. I've read the Quran. I have not read any of the hadiths, but I've read the Book of Mormon. I have not read the.
You mean the Vedic literature?
I've read a lot of holy textbooks. I've never found anything for myself that was compelling evidence or reason to compel me to believe that there's any particular God out there. Now, I don't have I'm not as what many would call a strong atheist. I don't believe it's impossible that a God could exist. I don't have a belief that no God could exist. But I don't have any belief in any God. I've got no reason to believe that there's any supreme deity, supernatural, whatever you want to call it. So what is it about your faith that causes you to believe that there must be some, and what would you call, how would you phrase it? As far as what Krishna is?
Supreme person.
Supreme person.
Yeah, person. Person means a conscious being, the senses, the form.
Right. And what makes you believe that there must be some conscious being outside of our universe?
My experience.
Like what?
Well, I'd rather not cheapen things, but one thing that I do accept is that there is or are other ways to experience reality than through our gross senses.
Sure.
And that's actually why the Vedic philosophy is scientific. It's not fanatical, because there is, just like in science, you could say a hypothesis, and then there's an experiment. You know what I'm saying? There's a way to try to apply theoretical knowledge you find in the scripture.
Okay.
And I'll give just an example.
Okay.
And you can take it or leave it.
Right.
If you have oxygen and hydrogen, and if you follow the right process, you'll get water, right? So the Vedic literature may say something like, "You're not this body, you're soul." Okay. But right now we have all these senses that can't necessarily perceive spirit. At least there's no way to empirically prove that thing. But there is, you could say, like a Vedic way, or there is a non-empirical way to test that. But one has to actually apply that knowledge. In other words,
what would be the non-empirical way?
So in other words, you wouldn't just read about this, just like you could read about a science experiment. But if you really wanted to be scientific, you'd have to do it yourself.
Sure. So
the Vedic literature gives knowledge about how you can perceive that you're not just a material object, but you have to apply the knowledge.
Okay.
So I understand that everybody has some type of faith, actually, because.
What do you mean by faith?
Well, we have faith that that railing's not going to fall over, that this gentleman's leaning on, that this bench isn't going to collapse, that every breath of air we take isn't poisoned by something. Like we're living based on actual faith.
I think just to be clear, because I think you and I probably maybe use the term differently. Like, I don't have faith that this bench is not going to collapse based on faith.
If you're sitting on it, could hurt you.
Of course, I'm sitting on it based on the evidence that metal welded benches don't generally collapse.
It's practical.
Now, it could absolutely.
But it could.
I give you that it could happen, but obviously, I think we work in a world of probabilities.
Yeah. Of course we do, but probability is an absolute.
So it's not just faith. Like, I didn't see this, and this is the first welded metal bench that I've ever seen in my life, and I have no idea what metal is or what welding is, and therefore,
I know
I just sat on it on pure faith.
Yeah.
I sat on this based on a tremendous amount of evidence.
Yeah, so it's a leap to make the kind of claim maybe that I'm making as compared to you sitting on the bench. But here, how about this? Even if you want to perform a scientific experiment, you have to have faith that there is a world there outside of your mind.
Well, yes. I mean, if we want to go back, I mean, I don't know how deep philosophically we want to start wrapping here, but it is true that we all do make some presuppositions at ground level. That we are not a brain in a vat, for instance.
Yeah,
that we are not living in the matrix.
That, after all, that's a grain of faith right there.
I will give you that I don't even know that I have faith that I'm not living in the matrix, but I mean, there's no other way to live, whether I'm in the matrix or not.
That's what I'm telling you.
Well, allow me to elaborate just a tiny bit. Even if I'm living in the matrix, until I'm unplugged, this is the world that I find myself in. This is the reality that I exist in. Whether I truly exist in some sense or not, it doesn't matter. This is the existence that I personally currently find myself in, and therefore I must deal with it as it works.
I agree.
Now in this world, I think we can both agree, possibly, that, for instance, people crucified and hung for dead for 3 days don't tend to come back to life. That's just not the reality that we find ourselves in right now, which would entail someone to believe that, to require that to be a divine miracle that they believe on faith. What I don't find is that there's anything separate from the human central nervous system, the human brain, that would require a separate term like spirit. We do have consciousness, which is very difficult to explain, which seems to be a property of the brain. But I don't know that it's necessarily different. And certainly not to the extent that I must believe that Krishna or Yahweh or Allah or anyone else must be required
I'm not saying you have to.
for consciousness to exist.
I'm not saying you have to, but...
No, but I mean, that's just to explain my personal
though,
position.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Okay.
You're being very practical. But if there's a possibility that there is a spiritual reality, you're really cutting yourself off from something that's huge.
Well, there's a possibility of anything. I'm not cutting myself off from anything. Let me be clear.
Could be. I mean,
I'm very open to a spiritual reality, a supernatural dimension. I'm very open. Like, you have no idea how much I wish, like, Harry Potter was a real thing. I want to go to that college. Okay? I mean, I'm very open to a lot of things. But my position is, if you want to have me, shave my head. Actually, I think your clothes are awesome. I would be very comfortable in them. But, to live my life by a particular thing that requires belief in
that's the thing, though. You call it belief, but I call it realization. Right. I call it experience.
Okay, well, realization and experience requires evidence.
Yeah, and I agree. And that's what we're
talking about. Proceed with that.
Well, like I said, the type of experience that I'm talking about isn't had by empirical knowledge. It's not had by just looking with your eyes or even a telescope or a microscope. Like that.
So how do I find this knowledge that you have that I do not?
Well, you have to inquire. I mean, the way that you and I probably differ in how we can understand reality is that you're trying to understand on your own strength. But that's not necessarily how knowledge is attained.
What do you mean by I'm trying to understand Krishna on my own strength?
Well, I didn't use the word Krishna.
No, right, but in pertaining to your knowledge.
You're obviously a philosophical person, so you're trying to understand reality. And maybe in your opinion, you totally understand it. So I'm not trying to be condescending.
No. And I don't mean to imply that I understand everything or know everything. I certainly.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 0.1%.
So that's very good. Yeah. No, so that's very
which
good.
Which is like a lot more than most people. but I'm still only like 0.1%.
Yeah. So.
No. But how?
So we both. I mean, you and I both accept there are things unknown to us.
Absolutely. Without a doubt.
Yeah. So maybe one of those things we don't know is a whole spiritual reality.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And maybe one of the things we don't know is mythical dragons and the Muslim Allah is God and created everything and controls us and cares about our sex life. But why do I not believe in the Muslim Allah or the Christian Yahweh or your Krishna? What makes me believe in your Krishna versus the others?
Well,
why would it, or just a general deity? What brings me to just a general deistic?
Well, I really don't feel like to share the intimate type of things about the God I know with somebody that might not appreciate it. That's why I keep it quite general.
Well, if it was real, I can guarantee you I would appreciate it for that reason alone. I mean, my goal in life, one of my many goals in life, is to believe as many, and this has been said by many before, as in my own mind, but I want to believe as many true things as possible. And I want to catch myself believing in the least amount of false things as possible.
That's smart.
So I want to use critical thinking skills. I want to be logical. I want to be philosophical, and I'm very open to anything. So I want to know why it is that so I'm very open to believing in Krishna if there's good reason or evidence.
I think there is, and especially for somebody like you, because a lot of people are really discouraged from spiritual life because of the nonsense that's out there.
Sure.
The dogmatism and all that. But that's why I would humbly offer to investigate this more, because first, like I said, the reason, maybe not the reason I came to what I'm doing, but the reason I've stuck with it is because it's philosophically succinct. It's succinct, and it's the most comprehensive philosophy.
For yourself.
I would say that as a principle, it's the most comprehensive thing. In other words, it can account for more ideas than any other belief system so far I found. I used to be a religious studies student, but there's so much that's not accounted for by many of the other paths.
Again, my name is Sean.
Sean?
Thank you so much. Is there any organization that you're with that you would like to mention?
Yeah, I'm a member of ISKCON. ISKCON is the acronym for International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Hare Krishnas.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I enjoyed that. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you.